Well, somebody else is prepared to tell her story because her big book is coming out this week, and that is Hillary Clinton's memoir. This is a book that has gotten a rollout. I don't know, I can't recall a bigger publicity push that's going on. First reports are there's not a lot of information we didn't know about in this book. And of course, the question that everybody wanted to know, are you going to run for president? And she said, well, I'll let you know. But she said, I have some other things I want to do in the meantime. This is what she said on ABC.
Travel around the country, sign books, help in the midterm elections in the fall, and then take a deep breath and kind of go through my pluses and minuses about what I will and will not be thinking about.
So she says that she'll probably kind of get it in her mind toward the end of the year and probably won't announce what she's going to do until sometime next year. Let me just come right out on the record and say I think she's going to run. Tom?
It certainly feels that way, and I don't see any other Democratic figure right now other than Joe Biden who could even remotely challenge her.
Sure. I don't know who the challenger would be if she decides not to run. Martin O'Malley says he's going to run, the governor of Maryland. Anybody know anybody else?
Maybe Andrew Cuomo.
Andrew Cuomo would be a good choice. I think she's already running. And I think the real question is, and it's sort of a quiet campaign, but I think the real question is whether she calls it off or not. But she made. I mean, this is
what might
this
get
book
her to do that, David?
What's that?
What might get her to do that? Do you think?
Her level of energy, you know, how she's feeling about it, how much she thinks she can get done. Can she make a difference as she's elected? You know, could she change things with Congress? I think if she felt she could really,
could she win?
She's ahead by double digits right now against all Republicans.
Well, I think Republicans need to take very seriously how strong a candidate this is. I mean, she's the one that raised the 3 a.m. question. Do you trust someone at 3 a.m.? I'm pretty convinced I would trust Hillary Clinton. Many others would. She meets the basic tests. She's a compelling candidate. I think one of the questions here is whether she gets a challenge from the left in the Democratic primaries because she's very tied to Wall Street. She's a hawk. Could be Brian Schweitzer or the former Montana governor or somebody that tries a semi-serious candidate from the left in this circumstance. But she's going to have to
But she'd have someone to beat.
Right, exactly. But she's going to have to run on more than nostalgia and entitlement. Every candidate eventually has to have a stronger message than that, and she needs a vision.
All right, so let's just put her aside for the minute. Michael, who is the Republican nominee going to be? Who's going to run? Is Jeb Bush going to run? That seems to be
people
the big
often
question
say
right
this
now.
maybe they say it every time, but it is a really open field. There is no Republican frontrunner, no guy who's next in line. Many of the possible frontrunners, establishment frontrunners, have flaws, whether it's Christie or Jeb or others. So I've never seen a more open field than this one.
Do you think Christie's still alive?
I do, because he is the greatest raw political talent in the Republican Party. If you were just to analyze the candidates and say, this guy could win the office, this is the guy who could win the office. Jeb Bush is a wonk, a serious policy guy. He would position the party well for the Republican nomination. The question is whether on immigration and Common Core and some other issues, are these disqualifying in a Republican primary? We don't know the answer to that now. I hope he tests it.
And
my sense of it is, and you probably know more about this than I do, but my sense of it is that even those within the Bush family don't know if he's going to run or not.
Well, his mother has an opinion on that.
She does have an opinion. What's your sense?
I just see so many guys, exactly as Michael says, a full field of people you haven't fully met yet, including some intriguing guys like Rand Paul, who is doing things like showing up at Berkeley and getting young people who are not Republicans to come in, and he talks to them about national security and his feelings about foreign policy, and he's getting quite a reaction. Somebody told me, a Republican talker, that Rand Paul is the only guy he's seeing who's actually growing the base a bit. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds sort of anecdotally correct. The Republicans are going to have a great war. I must say, I agree with Michael that if the Republicans in debate are 10 guys, maybe some women up there, plus Chris Christie, Chris Christie is going to make sure you enjoy that debate. It's going to be good. It's going to be tough.
You know, one interesting thing happened down in Texas. The Republican State Convention was in Fort Worth yesterday. They had a straw poll. Ted Cruz won going away. But you know who finished fourth in that poll? Rick Perry, the outgoing governor. And I'm wondering, is this kind of the beginning of the end of the Rick Perry if he's going to try to run again campaign?
I think it's very, very likely. I don't think he has an opening on the national stage at this point. I think he hurt himself so much the last time around. But I just think it's over. What I can't believe is how much of a juggernaut Hillary Clinton has compared to everything else. Yes. I mean, there are 2 million people who signed up for Ready for Hillary. 55,000 people have sent in money. And she has more money on hand than all the rest of the candidates combined. And she's ahead by 10 points or more against every Republican.
And you know, let me ask you about this, Peggy, because one thing I keep hearing on the Republican side is that if Jeb Bush decides not to run, that Mitt Romney may actually try to do it again. Yeah. I'm hearing that. I don't know how strong that is.
Okay, I am not. But I just may not be. Yeah, I've heard it now. Look, would that be possible? I think he and his wife made it so clear after their second try last time, that they're not interested in it again. And I think there are so many serious people in this thing. And I'll tell you, I think Rick Perry is making a better impression on people when he goes to small groups than you would guess, and I think he probably will be in the mix too, and may be surprising.
I think people usually get momentum from the previous candidacy when they do a good job in the previous candidacy.
Yes,
and I think there's a perception that Mitt Romney did not do a great job, and there's a perception that Rick Perry did not do a great job. These guys don't have a slingshot of momentum in this process. They may be a final choice. So.
You know, I would just say one thing, which is I don't know much about the politics here, but all I know is if you look at Obama right now, and you look at what we're dealing with as a country, we're dealing with an incredible technological shift that is really changing the nature of work in the workplace and education. Abroad, we're dealing with a world where countries are sort of half integrated, China and Russia, half not integrated. How do you manage them? And I would like to see, whether it's Hillary's book or in the Republican, runoff, who's actually got answers for the problems that the next president's actually going to face.
And also, I think it's disturbing, it's distressing that we have a president with 2.5 years left in office, and we're already focusing.
Yes.
I mean, Tom just has this really interesting column today. I bet you're at a conversation with the President Obama on climate change. He wants to use the next 2.5 years to push that issue. Will people listen to him? Will he get a forum? I'm not sure.
I think that's a very good point, because I mean, look what's happened this year. I mean, the Congress announces, when was it, back in February, they weren't going to do anything.
Right.
You know, no tax reform, no immigration reform, no entitlement reform. We'll be back after the election. I mean, they're wasting an entire year.
Right.
As I like to remember, they passed that 1964 Civil Rights Bill. That was an election year, and it was deep into an election year before they passed it. But now that seems to be kind of out of vogue.
And it relates back to the Bergdahl story. Once you put another stick in the eyes of Congress, it's just much harder to get anything done over the next 2.5 years. If you treat them dismissively, they will not go along with you on these.
It's even more complex on climate, though, because the president has done something with the EPA rule, announcing the rule, and complicated his job with Congress by undermining Democratic candidates in Kentucky and West Virginia, in coal states, because this is not just a left-right issue, it's a regional issue. It shows how hard it is sometimes to do your legacy. At the same time, you're trying to win a midterm election and give some themes to candidates.
Bob, there's so much off the table now we can't discuss. It's just like the pile down there is so big, as far as Congress and our national politics. Everything's off the table.
Well, everybody's worried, the thing now is just worried about getting a primary opponent. The founders, when they signed the Declaration of Independence, I don't remember any of them saying, I don't know if I want to sign this. I might get a primary opponent here. I mean, they were worried about getting hanged. And we seem to have lost that kind of in American politics. It's very, very strange. I'll tell you what I think about who's running and who's not running. I hope both parties nominate the very best person, people who will be qualified to be president. I never say who I vote for, but if the guy I vote for loses, I want the country to be in good hands.
I agree with that.
And I think
I'd like to see the loser genuinely congratulate the winner and pledge to help. It would really make a difference.
And I really agree with Tom. We need idea-oriented candidates right now. We have a huge challenge, particularly with failed education systems, and then the transition from education to jobs, which is not made by a lot of people in America. We need a virtuous competition on these ideas instead of a sterile ideological debate between more government and less government.
All right, we're going to take a break. Thanks to all of you. And when we come back, Tom's going to talk to us about an interview he had with the president on the very thing we've been talking about, climate change.
Good.
In a minute.